I'm a big believer that people are more productive when they're in person. Look, there are some exceptions, but I kind of think that the whole notion of work from home is a bit like the fake Marie Antoinette quote, "Let them eat cake." It's like really, you're going to work from home and you're going to make everyone else who made your car come work in the factory. You're going to make the people who make your food that gets delivered, that they can't work from home. The people that come fix your house, they can't work from home, but you can? Does that seem morally right? That's messed up.
You see it as a moral issue?
Yes.
I mean, I see it more as
it's a productivity issue, but it's also a moral issue. People should get off the goddamn moral high horse with the work from home bullshit. Because they're asking everyone else to not work from home while they do. The laptop class is living in La La Land.
In 1913, a revolutionary change began to unfold in Detroit, Michigan, a city that would soon be synonymous with the automobile industry. Henry Ford, an industrious and determined engineer, was about to change the world in ways that would echo through time. His invention of the assembly line, a concept that would streamline manufacturing and make mass production possible, would set the stage for an era of unprecedented innovation and transformation in the automotive world and beyond. Ford's journey toward developing the assembly line was not a straightforward one. It was the result of years of experimentation, trial, and error. Ford had a vision for the automobile, a vision where cars would no longer be a luxury item only accessible to the wealthy, but a practical tool that could be owned by the average person. He wanted to produce a car that was affordable, reliable, and efficient for the everyday American. But there was one major hurdle: how to make cars at a scale and price that could bring his vision to life. The answer lay in the revolutionary concept of mass production. Before Ford's breakthrough, automobile production was slow, expensive, and labor-intensive. Each car was painstakingly crafted by hand, often taking several days to complete. The process was laborious, and the cost of production was so high that only the wealthiest individuals could afford to buy cars. Even Henry Ford's own Model T, which he introduced in 1908, was initially a relatively expensive vehicle that most people couldn't afford. However, Ford was determined to make automobiles accessible to all. The turning point came when Ford's team began looking for ways to speed up the production process. They realized that by breaking down the assembly process into smaller, more specialized tasks, they could make production faster and more efficient. Ford visited meatpacking plants in Chicago, where workers had developed a system of assembly lines to process meat quickly and efficiently. Inspired by this system, he saw an opportunity to apply the same principle to car manufacturing. Ford's assembly line would forever change the way products were made, not just in the automotive industry, but across all sectors. The key to the success of the assembly line was the idea of creating specialized workstations, each dedicated to a single task. Workers no longer had to move around the factory to assemble a car piece by piece. Instead, the car would come to them on a conveyor belt. This method drastically reduced the time it took to produce a car and allowed Ford to build his vehicles at a scale never before seen. In 1913, Ford introduced the world to this new approach when he began using a moving assembly line at his Highland Park plant in Detroit. This was a momentous occasion, not just for the auto industry, but for manufacturing as a whole. The assembly line transformed the process of making cars from a tedious, time-consuming task into a streamlined, efficient operation that could churn out vehicles at a rapid pace. The production time for a single Model T dropped from over 12 hours to just around 90 minutes. The cost of manufacturing also plummeted, making the car more affordable for the average American. As the assembly line took shape, Ford also introduced another revolutionary concept: the $5 workday. This move was as groundbreaking as the assembly line itself. By doubling the average wage for factory workers, Ford created a stable and motivated workforce, which in turn increased productivity. The $5 workday was a brilliant move that not only improved the lives of Ford's workers but also helped create a new consumer class, people who could now afford to buy the very cars they were making. The impact of the assembly line was immediate and far-reaching. As Ford ramped up production, the price of the Model T dropped, making it accessible to a wider range of people. The car, which had originally been a luxury item, became a symbol of freedom and mobility for the average American. The affordable car allowed families to travel farther, access new job opportunities, and experience a lifestyle that was previously out of reach. It wasn't just about the Model T, it was about the possibility of creating a society where automobiles were not just for the elite, but for everyone. Ford's success with the assembly line didn't just benefit his company, it transformed entire industries. Other manufacturers soon followed suit, adopting the assembly line to increase efficiency and reduce costs. What Ford had started in his Detroit factory soon became the standard for mass production in the United States and around the world. The assembly line wasn't just limited to cars, it spread to industries ranging from appliances to electronics, and even the military. The methods that Ford pioneered would go on to shape the modern economy in ways he could never have fully anticipated. However, Ford's impact wasn't limited to the economic realm. The assembly line also had profound social implications. It allowed for the mass production of affordable goods, which in turn helped create a consumer-driven economy. Ford's innovations helped pave the way for the rise of the middle class, as more people gained access to products and services that had once been reserved for the wealthy. It also gave rise to a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, where others could see what Ford had accomplished and seek to emulate it in their own fields. Yet, Ford's journey wasn't without challenges. Despite the overwhelming success of the assembly line, the implementation of this new system wasn't universally loved. Many workers initially resisted the idea of assembly line production, as it meant repetitive, monotonous tasks. The new pace of work was grueling, and the factory floor became a place where speed and efficiency were prioritized over craftsmanship. Some workers quit, while others protested the conditions in the factories. Ford faced resistance not only from his workers but also from competitors who were slow to adopt the assembly line model. Ford's insistence on the assembly line wasn't without its setbacks, but he was unwavering in his belief that it was the key to his vision of mass-producing affordable cars. The challenges he faced only strengthened his resolve, and his commitment to innovation ultimately paid off in ways that are still felt today. As Ford continued to refine the assembly line, he expanded the use of automated processes and brought more advanced technologies into the factory. By the 1920s, Ford had become the world's largest automaker, and the assembly line was the backbone of his success. It wasn't just about building cars, it was about creating a new industrial revolution that would shape the future of manufacturing and transform the global economy. Henry Ford's development of the assembly line wasn't just an innovation in manufacturing, it was a revolution in how people thought about work, production, and society itself. His vision for a world where cars were accessible to the average person was realized, and it would go on to change the course of history. The assembly line was the catalyst for an era of mass production and economic growth, but it also changed the very fabric of society. The world Ford helped create was one where mobility, efficiency, and innovation were no longer distant dreams but tangible realities. As the assembly line continued to grow in influence, Henry Ford's innovative manufacturing system became a cornerstone of modern industrial practices, transforming industries worldwide. The world was not the same as it had been before the advent of mass production. Ford's vision wasn't limited to creating an affordable car, it was about reshaping the entire fabric of society by introducing a method of production that would lead to unimaginable advancements. The assembly line changed everything: how goods were made, how industries operated, and how the average person lived. But Ford's impact didn't stop there. His ideas resonated far beyond the confines of Detroit, touching economies and cultures around the globe. By the time the Ford Motor Company reached its peak, the Model T was no longer just a car, it had become a symbol of the American dream. It represented mobility, opportunity, and a better life for families. Ford's strategy of lowering prices while improving the quality of his product made the automobile accessible to millions of people. The success of the Model T demonstrated that mass production could be a force for good, and that efficient manufacturing wasn't just about cutting costs, it could lead to improvements in society itself. Ford's revolutionary assembly line method set the stage for the economic boom of the 1920s. The new manufacturing model allowed for the efficient production of goods at a rate never before seen, which helped fuel the consumer economy. As more people purchased cars, the automobile industry sparked a chain reaction that boosted other sectors, including steel, rubber, glass, and oil. Each of these industries saw rapid growth as they became interconnected in an economy built on mass production and consumerism. This web of industries, all linked to the success of the automobile, created jobs and improved the standard of living for millions of Americans. The assembly line also had a profound impact on how people viewed work. Ford's decision to pay his workers a higher wage was a revolutionary act in itself. By offering workers $5 per day, an amount that was significantly higher than the average wage at the time, Ford was not only attracting the best talent but also giving workers the opportunity to live a better life. His employees could now afford to buy the very cars they were building. The $5 workday made Ford's workers more than just employees, they became part of a larger economic system, one where they were both producers and consumers, and their success was tied directly to the success of the company. Ford's influence reached beyond the United States, as other countries took notice of the success of the American assembly line. Ford's mass production model spread quickly, influencing global manufacturing standards. European countries, especially Germany and Britain, took inspiration from Ford's methods and began adapting them to their own industries. This global adoption of mass production techniques helped to create the modern industrial economy, in which goods could be produced at a scale and speed that had once been unimaginable. However, as Ford's success grew, so did the challenges. While the assembly line was undeniably effective in terms of efficiency and cost reduction, it also came with significant drawbacks. Workers, often performing the same repetitive task for hours on end, began to experience fatigue, boredom, and dissatisfaction. The factory floor became a place where speed and precision were prioritized over the well-being of the workers. Despite the higher wages, workers often found themselves struggling with the monotony of assembly line work, and the repetitive nature of their tasks led to low morale and high turnover rates. Ford was aware of these issues, and in response, he implemented various measures to improve the work environment. One of the most famous was his decision to introduce a 5-day workweek, a concept that was revolutionary at the time. By reducing the workweek from 6 days to 5, Ford hoped to give his employees more time to rest and recuperate, improving their overall productivity and happiness. This was a move that many other companies soon adopted, making the 5-day workweek the standard in American industry. Despite these innovations, the long-term effects of the assembly line on the labor force were mixed. The system that Ford had created was efficient, but it also came at a cost. The demand for cheap, standardized labor led to a decline in craftsmanship, as workers became mere cogs in the machine. The skill and artistry that had once been a part of manufacturing were gradually replaced by a system that valued speed and efficiency above all else. As a result, many workers felt disconnected from the products they were producing, and the sense of pride that had once come with manufacturing gave way to frustration and alienation. Ford's relationship with his workers became more complicated over time. While he had been a pioneer in terms of offering fair wages and improved working conditions, his methods were not always embraced by labor unions. Ford's belief in maintaining tight control over his company led to clashes with labor activists, who advocated for better conditions and more rights for workers. The tension between Ford and labor unions would continue to be a significant issue throughout his career, as Ford's insistence on maintaining control over every aspect of his business led to conflicts with organized labor. Despite the challenges Ford faced with his workforce, his assembly line had one undeniable impact: it revolutionized the way we think about mass production. The principles Ford established, efficiency, standardization, and high wages for workers, became the foundation for modern manufacturing. His innovations not only shaped the automobile industry but also helped create a global economy in which the production of goods was faster, cheaper, and more widespread than ever before. The success of Ford's assembly line would be felt for generations to come. It laid the groundwork for future technological advancements, as the principles of mass production continued to evolve. The introduction of automation and robotics in the late 20th century would continue the legacy of Ford's assembly line, allowing for even greater efficiency in manufacturing. In the broader context of the world economy, Ford's assembly line was a key factor in the rise of consumer culture. By making cars more affordable and accessible to the average person, Ford helped create a society in which goods were mass-produced, widely available, and consumed by a large population. This shift to consumerism marked a major turning point in the history of industrialization and played a crucial role in the development of the modern economy. Henry Ford's assembly line is often regarded as one of the most important inventions of the 20th century, and its influence can still be seen in the way we produce goods today. Ford didn't just change the way cars were made, he changed the world by redefining the very concept of work, production, and consumption. His legacy is one of progress and innovation, but it is also a reminder of the complexities of industrialization, the challenges that come with mass production, the tension between efficiency and worker satisfaction, and the social and economic transformations that result from technological advancement. As the 20th century unfolded, the legacy of Henry Ford's assembly line continued to shape industries worldwide. It was no longer just about the Model T or the automobile industry. Ford's revolutionary methods had become a symbol of efficiency and progress, influencing how everything from clothing to electronics to household items were made. But while Ford's methods brought about the golden age of mass production, they also planted the seeds for what would become a much larger and more complex industrial revolution. This would be a revolution that would continue evolving long after Ford's death in 1947. The post-Fordian era witnessed dramatic changes in manufacturing processes. While the basic principles Ford introduced, standardization, division of labor, and a focus on efficiency, remained relevant, new technologies began to push the boundaries of what was possible in production. After World War II, innovations such as computer-aided design, CAD, automation, and robotics began to reshape factories across the world. These technologies built on Ford's vision but surpassed his methods in terms of precision, speed, and scalability. The assembly line evolved into what we now know as advanced manufacturing, where machines and computers work in tandem with human labor to create complex products at an unprecedented rate. In many ways, Henry Ford was a pioneer not only in automotive manufacturing but also in the broader concept of industrial production. His success with the assembly line proved that large-scale manufacturing could be a viable and profitable venture, a concept that was taken up by other industries looking to replicate his success. Companies in the electronics, food, and even fashion industries began to adopt assembly line techniques, realizing that mass production could lead to reduced costs, increased output, and more affordable products for consumers. Ford's influence could be seen in everything from the mass production of radios to the rise of fast food chains, all of which relied on the principles of efficient production that he had championed. However, the very success of mass production led to a major challenge: the impact it had on labor. While Ford's higher wages had helped create a middle class that could afford the products they were making, the growing reliance on automated processes and machines in the late 20th and early 21st centuries led to the decline of traditional manufacturing jobs. Automation, which initially emerged as a tool to improve efficiency, started to replace human workers altogether, creating a shift in the workforce that would ripple through the economy. Many once thriving manufacturing towns in the US and Europe began to lose jobs to automation, leading to significant economic shifts and social unrest. This issue of job displacement would become one of the defining debates in modern economies. As more factories adopted automation, many workers found themselves out of a job or having to retrain for roles in technology and service sectors. The rise of robotics and artificial intelligence, AI, has continued to reshape the manufacturing industry, just as Ford's assembly line did a century ago. But unlike Ford's time, when new production techniques led to the creation of better-paying jobs, today's automated world often leads to a net loss of jobs, leaving many wondering about the future of human labor. Yet, Ford's core principle, that a good product should be affordable for the masses, still holds true. Today's global economy is built on the same mass production ideals that Ford introduced in the early 1900s. While the technology has advanced far beyond what Ford could have imagined, the foundation he laid still stands. Cars, electronics, clothing, and even medical equipment are all made using modern versions of the assembly line, often in factories that are staffed with fewer human workers but are far more efficient than ever before. Ford's influence is not just limited to the economic impact of mass production, it also extends to social movements. His commitment to paying workers fair wages and giving them better living standards set a standard for other companies and sparked a broader conversation about the rights of workers. Ford's belief in the value of his employees led to better working conditions and higher wages for many people in America and around the world. In the years following Ford's rise, labor unions grew stronger, and workplace standards improved. His decision to give workers higher wages was, in many ways, a precursor to the labor rights movements that would shape much of the 20th century. Another aspect of Ford's legacy lies in his ability to innovate not just in technology but in the way businesses operated. He was among the first to recognize the power of consumer demand and the importance of making products affordable and accessible. Ford realized that mass production wasn't just about creating cheaper products, it was about creating a thriving economy where people could purchase what they made, fueling a cycle of consumption and production that benefited everyone. This idea laid the groundwork for the consumer-driven economy that would become the hallmark of the 20th century and beyond. While many of Ford's methods have been refined or even replaced, his impact on manufacturing cannot be overstated. His assembly line remains one of the most important innovations in industrial history, and its principles continue to shape the way we produce and consume goods. As we look forward to the future of manufacturing, one where AI, automation, and sustainable production processes play an even greater role, it is clear that the spirit of Ford's innovations will continue to influence the industry. Henry Ford didn't just change the automobile industry, he changed the world. His assembly line reshaped global manufacturing, created millions of jobs, and helped foster the growth of a middle class that could afford the products they made. He believed in making products affordable, in empowering workers, and in the potential of mass production to improve society. Ford's legacy lives on today, as his principles continue to drive innovation in manufacturing. His story is a testament to the power of ingenuity and vision, and to the lasting impact that one person can have on the course of history.
One of my sons, Saxon, who's sort of autistic, but he's kind of awesome. He's like an oracle of wisdom. I'd like try to have like a family dinner at a restaurant once a week. And Saxon for a long time didn't understand why we were doing this. He's like, why are we going out? and then finally he had an epiphany and said, oh, the reason people go to restaurants is to hang out with strangers, because you can get the same restaurant food delivered. You can call your friends over, but you know what you can't get unless you go to a restaurant is hanging out with strangers. So we actually like hanging out with strangers.